Hello, good morning. My name is Reece Clifford. I'm a data and analytics advisor at SAS. I cover a larger region, so I focus on Middle East, Turkey, Africa, and then we group together Asia Pacific as well. So it's my pleasure to be here in Mumbai, but also in India. Second time now. Enjoyed the first time very much, obviously very welcoming, but most importantly, the food has been very good. Although it's become very clear I need to travel to different areas because wherever people are from, they fiercely defend the food and the culture of your birthplace. So I look forward to some travels in the future as well. Today, I want to cover three main things for you. So I want to look at the trends, what it is that you'll be looking towards, what you're building towards, the innovation that you're targeting as insurers here in India. I want to give you an idea of what are the use cases that you can target. How can you actually achieve these trends? And then most importantly, or I think most importantly, what is the technology that's going to enable that? So I want to pass through the three things, but most importantly, I hope that there's elements of the presentation of the material that I talked to you about that sparks some ideas, that gives you a thought, something that you can take home with you, take back to your place of work, and gives you an idea of something that you can change. So I definitely invite you to come and see our booth afterwards. 15 minutes is a short presentation time, so obviously can't get into a lot of detail. We have a lot of other people from SAS here with various areas of expertise, topics like Gen AI, hot topics like this for us to be able to get into, and I look forward to talking to you on a more personal note as well. So with that, we will get going, hopefully. It's working. I can tell you the next slide is the three trends for insurance in 2025. I will tell you a secret. I use generative AI to be able to read McKinsey's, Deloitte's, PwC's, reports on what they thought to give a bit of a broader understanding. So this isn't a SaaS specific look, so don't worry, we're not trying to pitch things that we directly sell. The idea here is to get an idea around the industry as a whole. So hopefully some of it, not all of it, is new information to you. Digital transformation and innovation. So what are we talking about here? We're looking at increasing operational efficiency and customer engagement. So all of the innovation that Mr. Singh spoke about before me, this is what we're trying to target. What are the things that can put you ahead of your competition? What are the things that you can do to delight your customers? Get them to tell their friends, their family about the experience that they're having. Secondly is AI everywhere. So of course, a little bit more SaaS focused as we are a data and analytics company. But the idea here is around actually using the data to be able to make these decisions. So what is data that maybe isn't digitized at the moment that we can help you get online, be able to form insight, be able to make those decisions? In topics like pricing, like risk strategies, helping you with your underwriting processes. The idea is to be as dynamic and as personalized as possible. We want to help you bring down the elements so you're dealing with the customer as an individual, not just customers in clusters. And finally, this customer-centric nature of both products and services. So of course, as a consumer, when I'm looking at health insurance, car insurance, home insurance, I want you as an insurer to understand me as an individual, but also not just from that product level, but from when I'm dealing with you. So you should know what products I have. You should know what products I've been interested in. I should be getting offers that are specific to me if I have a newborn child, if I have just purchased a car a year ago. So the idea here is that we want to balance the innovation, and we want to make sure that the customer is being treated as the individual that they are. Because ultimately it is those consumers that are driving your behaviors and the reactiveness that you have to that. So for these trends, of course, we need to always consider the regulatory, the governance aspect of this from a both internal and external point of view. So we want to make sure that we have oversight internally so you can report to your stakeholders, but also from an innovation point of view, you need to be able to communicate. You need to be able to bring your stakeholders on side, invest in the innovation that you are trying to make. So the idea here is that you get a holistic view of your ecosystem for your data and your analytics, but also from an external point of view. So you see that India's free AI regulation that is around, but also the broader sense in terms of the movement in the regulatory ecosystem, the environment towards things like the European Union AI Act, but also the GDPR regulation that came in a few years ago now. There's a little bit of to-ing and fro-ing in America with the change of administration, so we'll see how their US AI Act continues, but it's something that we're following closely. So for these trends, what are the use cases? How can we make these a reality? How can we actually bring this down to a level where you can change something, make an impact, and actually bring this insight into action? The idea here is that you shouldn't just be focusing one area. Data is being produced everywhere. So AI, as we see from our trends, can be pushed to everywhere. So we look at cross-department, but we look at cross-use cases. And the idea here is that, in fact, although these use cases are in individual boxes, the idea is to cross-populate the data and the insight that we have in all these different in these different use cases. So when we look at something like customer retention, then we see that the retention is also related to the cross-sell upsell. If I'm continuously being showcased and looking at products that are helping me from my insurer, then my retention chance is going to be higher. So we always want to make sure that we are linking different use cases. And of course, from a technology point of view, and we'll get to this, being able to break down these barriers of data silos, but also organizational silos is key. And of course, you'll notice the foundation icon at the bottom there that is always doing this in a way that is in line with regulation and the governance that is appropriate. So we want to make sure that we move towards more of a governance by design, regulatory compliance by design, so that whenever you're iterating, whenever you're building these new use cases, you have these processes, you have these controls put in place from the get-go. So you're not having to change anything in hindsight as a result of the implementation of these. Hopefully there's maybe one or two here that interest you, and as I said, we're willing to and happy to go into more detail on the booth. We have demonstrations talking about the use of generative AI in customer service management. So being able to actually adapt the generative AI voice that is on the end of the phone to the language that the individual is speaking on the phone. So in real time, as someone is speaking, the generative AI model will pick that up and reply in that same language. All of this is based upon just the caller number that is being called in, because we can access the CRM profile of that individual. But also be able to look at the response to new customers as well. So something that we're working on and are quite proud of some of the results that we've had. So do feel free to come by and have a look at that. So I wanted to focus on two processes that are impacted as a result of these use cases. So I mentioned the fact that we want to try and combine these use cases. We want to be able to build these into more business process orientated outcomes. So the first of these is enhanced insurance application. So this is either your new customers or an existing customer who's applying for a different type of insurance that you offer. So we have our business process, and the point here is that we are integrating AI, as we say, AI everywhere, into the different steps of this process. So we're not trying to alter the process to fit what we can do from a technology point of view. We are bringing the technology to the process that is centric on our customer. So the customer applies for the insurance, there is verification of the coverage scope, but then we start to see where AI comes in. This is where we look at our upsell models that can be applied as part of the marketing offer that's presented. So you can see immediately there's one element of marketing department's analytics that's coming into the scene. And then we look at our application fraud screening. So then the fraud domain is coming into the process as well. We have our fraud models that are applied for suspicious behavior or looking at trends, relationships within the data that have been seen historically with other examples of fraud that you may have come up against. Then we can look at bringing in the newest technology in terms of generative AI models to enhance your underwriting process. So this is where we're enhancing the knowledge that you have, the IP that you have internally, by using something that can learn on its own. And the idea here is that it will be able to suggest and create insight that you should consider when putting into your underwriting process. So of course, we're not saying that you should completely leave it to Gen AI and just, Wild West, see what it comes up with and throw this at your consumers. There will of course be some manual checks in here. You will have your underwriter and your actuaries who will be able to have their own checks. But the idea is that it's giving them more information. It's giving them a experience that maybe they haven't achieved through 5-10 years in the industry. Only being 2 years experience, they're getting this insight and it's being surfaced to them as if they had that experience. Then we bring the analytics into the pricing models. So then we're able to look at the premium and look at scenario testing. So you may offer a policy and a pricing to an individual in the first instance or through a broker, and they may reject that. So what we want to be able to do is give you the flexibility, give you the agility to be able to recalibrate that pricing. Based upon the risk metrics that we had earlier, some of the fraud screening, are we maybe being a bit too tight? Do we want to relax this a little bit? And what impact will that have? And that brings us into the enhanced decision and then into the next use case that I want to talk about in terms of the detailed impact analysis. So this is where we can bring these two use cases together, because now we can balance the profitability and retention aspects of the pricing of the proposal that we give to the consumer when we are looking at planning those rate changes or when we're looking at those policies. A lot of words. The idea here is that we are always looking to have a direct impact on the business process that the analytics is being used inside of. So whether that's reducing significant price changes, both from your consumer's point of view, but also from a regulatory point of view. If you're consistently changing prices all the time and you're not able to explain as to why, then a regulator may, put you on the hot seat and have a few questions. But if we are building the governance by design that I was mentioning, you will have technology that can provide insight as to why your models are making this decision. You can have that automatically showcased so that if somebody does need to ask a question, you have that information. It's not taking you 2, 3, 5 days to be able to surface that, speak to each individual involved in the process and try and surface this information. But importantly as well, it gives you the ability at the bottom there to be able to compare and contrast different options. So it's not just, here's your outcome, okay, that didn't work, better luck next time with your next consumer or next application. We want to get it right for this application. So we want to be able to give you that ability to change your pricing, to be more dynamic with it from that point of view. How is it that we are being able to do that? So the examples that I've just given are those that I've experienced myself. I've spoken to insurers both here in India, but also in the wider region, but also when products are being provided to consumers outside of industry. So take some learnings from other industries. And the key part here is something that we term as enterprise decisioning. So the idea here is that it's a decision that is taken with all of the aspects that need to be considered being involved in that decision. So we're not just trying to have a decision for marketing, a decision for fraud, a decision for your pricing. We want to bring those together so that ultimately that decision time is shortened. And that's the key aspect here, because being able to reduce your time to market, being able to reduce your time to make those changes means you have the attention of that consumer. If you're able to change your price in a second, 2 seconds, while your consumer is on the phone, on your web page, in your app, that's going to be much more impactful than if you're making separate decisions and having to wait 30, 40, 50 seconds. We all know that attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. So the time to market and the time to the delivery of that decision is very, very key. And ultimately, we see a very positive impact in terms of a 3 to 5% increase in revenue as a result. So it's, of course, going to have a direct impact in terms of if that consumer then takes the policy or the insurance from you directly. But internally, what do we see? So the drivers to these business impacts, I talked a little bit about them. I've dropped some examples in, but the idea here is we are looking to break these data silos. So there's very much an environment where we would try and collect as much data as possible. everyone's trying to gather as much as possible. We need data from every click. We need data from every conversation. But that would go into the areas that were specific to that use case or that department. And what we're trying to do is break that. So as a platform, we will connect all of that data. We will be able to centralize that data in terms of your data engineering pipelines, but we will be able to incorporate that data into a single decision flow that is based upon the business process. So a 15% reduction in data quality issues. I think anybody who touches any data will be very happy with that number. Any quality issues that we can reduce is a headache that is not had anymore. But it's the time that's used to integrate those sources as well. So once you've reduced the time for your internal sources, you can then focus on what other data can we look at outside of the organization to even further enrich the decision that we're making. And that's where a real differentiator and a game changer could be made. Then we look at things like the model development time, the deploying of the automation, but also actually to hear back from those inside of your organization. So 88% of actuaries said that SAS was able to improve their way of working. So you're going to have a really nice, tangible impact on your own employees as well at the same time. If there's one image of SAS, hopefully most of you know who we are and have dealt with this, but even if you have, but if you haven't, there's one image to think, what does SAS do? Remember this, as we call it, the analytics lifecycle. So the idea here is that the technology can move you from any question you have to the decision that needs to be taken. So in this case, we were talking about specific to insurance, the onboarding or the pricing choice. Time is up, so good job, it's last slide. The idea here is that we want to allow you to connect all of the data that we are talking about in these decisions. So with that, I will leave that with you. There are some more slides that I have around some of the specific capabilities that we have in terms of autopilots, in terms of synthetic data generation to help you with any sensitive data, but also the governance element. So something we call the model cards, which gives you all of the information you need around the data, the model's using, who is using the model, etc. So if you're interested, very happy to talk about it. I'll be around or at the booth. And most importantly, I look forward to tasting some more of the Indian cuisine while I'm here until Friday. So thank you very much.